What's up, y'all? Jason here. It's Saturday morning. I'm getting ready to go out on a gig today. So I got recruited on this gig by my good friend and former intern, Jonathan. We're going to be backing up a Christian singer-songwriter named Andy Cherry. And Jonathan put together a really solid group of musicians for this gig. I love each and every one of these guys, and it's going to be a really fun band to play in. And today, I'm on bass. So a big part of my professional life these days is being a guitar player, but what's interesting is before I played the guitar, I was actually a bass player first. I've been playing piano my whole life, and I was playing drums in the high school marching band, and then me and some friends wanted to form a garage band, and I was going to be the drummer. But we had another friend of ours who wanted in and who was a better drummer than me, so they asked me if he could be the drummer for the band. But we didn't have a bass player, and the guitar player had a bass guitar that he would loan me until I could get my own, and so I taught myself how to play the bass. My parents got me a bass guitar for Christmas that year, and for the rest of high school I was playing bass in rock bands and punk bands and all sorts of places, and secretly on the side teaching myself how to play the guitar and sing and write songs and not telling anybody. My first ever real paying gig was actually on bass. I was playing bass in my church's Wednesday night youth group, and a guy who was going off to play summer camps and retreats and stuff like that just recruited our whole Wednesday night band to go back him up that summer. And that snowballed into a bunch of other gigs, and that technically was the start of my professional career as a musician. It was because of the bass that I didn't have to go back to my crappy job at the concession stand at a movie theater, which I never got my last paycheck for. It's been 20 years. They're probably still holding on to that $12 for me. So I'm taking along my trusty P-Bass of unknown origin. This thing is so cheap, but I've put a lot of TLC into it. I've changed out at least half of the parts. These tuners are not original. The bridge is original. All new electronics. Replaced the pickups with golden age P-Bass pickups from StewMac, and just put a lot of work into it, and it's just a really rock solid bass. But something interesting about me playing bass, you want to know something really crappy about getting older, is you start finding out all the things that are weird about you medically. And one thing about me is I get a little bit of eczema in my hands, so I have to be really serious about using moisturizers and cortisol creams to keep the skin on my fingers from getting really itchy and irritated or even breaking and bleeding. So something that I have gotten into recently is using these. These are felt picks. I'll use these from time to time when I want the sound of playing bass with my fingers, but my skin gets a little too irritated to do that. And then I have some thick, regular plastic picks for when I want that more aggressive pick bass sound. As far as a bass rig, I have a few things that I consider to be essential, and then a few things that I consider to be more like really nice to have color options. The first thing is some sort of preamp, amp sim, DI type situation, because unless I'm playing Motown style gig, I don't want to give them just a clean direct in bass signal. And then it's good to have a tuner, some light compression, and I like having a transparent full range overdrive that I can turn on to give the bass a little bit of a mid-range push and some extra compression when I want it. And then as far as fun color stuff, I really like having a bass fuzz, an octave effect, and once every like 2 years, I like turning on an echo effect on the bass just to give it more sustain and dimension when I'm playing like higher up, like chordal voicings on the bass. It just gives it more of like a guitar-esque sound. So the problem I ran into is last November, I suddenly got called on a couple of bass gigs, and I had just sold my HX Stomp in favor of getting the Walrus Audio ACS-1 to use for my live guitar amps. But the HX Stomp did such an incredible job of being an all-in-one bass rig when I needed it to be. So I needed to find something to fill that gap when I occasionally got called up to play bass. So I searched the internet for something I could use as a bass preamp and maybe some other stuff, and something that wasn't super expensive because I don't play bass that often. I didn't want to spend another $600 on an HX Stomp, and I found something that I think is a real sleeper piece of gear. This is the Sonic Bar Boom Avenue by Sonic Cake. This is one of those small fly rig type units instruments. You could fit this in your backpack or in your bass case. 4 effects in one, XLR out, has an effects loop, and it sounds shockingly good for only being $99. So something I talk about is not looking down on cheap gear. I did a whole video about my really cheap Squire P bass and my collection of decidedly mid-priced guitars, and not buying into the hype of having to own something really expensive. You don't want gear that's going to break on you, obviously, but really what's most important is that you feel comfortable playing through it and using your ears to figure out how to get the best possible sound out of it. And I gotta say, for its price point, this thing really delivers. It's a great bang for your buck pedal. The preamp does the Ampeg SVT type sound, and I just leave it on pretty much the whole time. It's got a fuzz that's based on the Russian big muff circuit, and it's really easy to tame, so it doesn't sound like it's taking over your whole bass sound. It's just taking up the intensity a notch. And it's got an octave effect that does a surprisingly good imitation of the old Boss OC2 pedal that bass players love. Does that sort of synthy low octave sound. It also has a boost/compressor that I never turn on because it sounds like garbage, quite honestly. It makes the bass sound like trash. But I mean, it's $99, 3 out of 4 knocked out of the park. That's pretty awesome. So I take this guy and I put it on a little pedal board with a few other effects to round out my bass rig. I've got a Boss TU3 tuner going into an SP compressor to give me my compression that the Boom Avenue does not do well. I've got a Timmy to give that little bit of open, transparent, real light overdrive just to add an extra bit of grit to the sound. And then in the effects loop of the Boom Avenue is the Source Audio Collider, which might actually be the most expensive piece of my entire bass rig, even more expensive than the bass itself, hilariously. But it's great. I just wasn't using it for anything else at the moment, so it sits in the effects loop just to give me that little bit of echo that I occasionally want out of the bass. Made it, did pretty good on time. There's weird traffic. I think there was a lot of construction going on. My navigation put me on a weird route. I have a lot of empathy. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, home of constant, never-ending highway construction. So, all right, I think I got like 10 minutes to get everything loaded and set up, which, easy. All right, just got done with rehearsal. On a gig like this, we just show up the day of and rehearse in the afternoon and then play the gig. So my rig situation is working out pretty decent. Let's see what we got here. So here's the rig, and I got my synth bass. This is an old Korg R3 that I've had. I don't even know how long I've had this thing, but it's been everywhere and it's gotten really beat up, and now I literally just use it for synth bass live, and it gets the job done. So they didn't have enough channels for me to run bass and synth bass on separate tracks. Fortunately, I was prepared for this situation. So this little guy here, the Walrus Audio Canvas box, does a beautiful job of summing my synth bass and electric bass down to one line to go into my preamp, so I can send them down the same channel. Actually just recently got this guy. I did a little unboxing of it. You'll see that in a later video because, fun fact, when you make YouTube videos and you get really busy, you film 2 or 3 simultaneously and then release them not in chronological order because who cares? And Jonathan's making me run click tonight.
And then all of a sudden there's just nothing. I'm like, Connor, what are you doing? Right. Guitar problem.
All right, that boy Connor can get down
back. Yeah. And then he comes back, I just broke the 4th wall. And then Jason comes over.
All right, John Krasinski.
I like how the last 3 songs are all 3 there in keys, in which there is no good transition between.
That's half of the set.
Yeah.
If there's a good transition or if it's a short song, we said no.
We said no.
We said no.
I'm not the song of the moment I love to forget. Thank God you know more than I do, and who I belong to. I may wanna fall, but to you I've never been lost. I'm not an orphan. You are my father. I'm never forsaken, never forgotten. Lord, I am.
This and this needs to come on hooks, and this and the rest of it to figure out later, I guess, because let's just get out of here. You did good, buddy.
Your problem sense.
I always go too loud on mono mixes.
All right, let's do this. Yes. All right.
Fun stuff, man.
Great job. Great job.
See Jason.
You guys are awesome. Maybe one day we'll get paid for this. Yeah. Made it home. Very tired. Got an early morning tomorrow, but a very, very fun gig tonight. Apparently, it's prom night because there's a bunch of teenagers in formal wear hanging out in the parking garage. So, yeah.